2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
How do we navigate a healthy sex life in recovery? Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery. What's going on, Brannon? How are you doing, man?
I'm a little pissed at you.
No, what I do now?
I'll give you the lecture again. You ready?
Okay, yeah, let me have it.
You got a fever today.
Yeah.
You've been sick.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing here?
I can't stay away from work, man. I love doing the podcast with you, and I love to see your face and your flowing locks. I can't resist it.
I don't blame you for that, but your self-care has to matter.
For what it's worth.
Practice what you preach.
I know. For what it's worth, I woke up today and I got out of the shower. I got all cleaned up, got dressed, and I got ready to go to work. And I'm just walking out the door, and literally I'm just have sweat beating off of my face. And my wife's like, "Are you sweating, Tyler?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sweating." She's like, "Did you exercise?" I said, "No, I got dressed." She said, "Don't you think you should call in sick today?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna call in sick for all of my appointments except for the podcast." So we're doing the podcast, then I'm gonna go home.
Okay. Well, so, I guess I'm glad you're here. But,
yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in here. We got Shaun and Emily with us today. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
If you could just give us a little bit of background, tell us some of the things you're struggling with, and ask any questions that you have.
Emily, you want to go first? Okay, I guess I can go first. So we've been together for about 5 years. Kind of went through all the normal phases of a relationship. Honeymoon phase was great, just like any relationship. And then about 1 year into the relationship, something was off, a woman's intuition. Couldn't really put a name to it. And I started kind of doing my own research and putting pieces together. And, Shaun was asking for things like a more intense sex life and things like that. And I feel like I'm very sex positive. So I was willing to try a bunch of things. And that never really, I guess, quote, fixed our problem or what was going on. And I kind of did a lot of research, as most partners do, and feel like I could have a master's in social work and sex addiction and betrayal trauma now. But so come to find out, I felt like a really good terminology to describe what we were going through was some sort of porn, sex addiction, and betrayal trauma. And so I kind of went through all of the stages of trying to control him, realizing I can't control him, and, you know, trying to shut down his sexuality, realizing like that wasn't getting me or him anywhere. And so now I feel like I'm in a place where I can really look at some of the more, you know, sex positive things in our relationship instead of trying to just tell him like, no, don't do that. And so we're just trying to navigate that now. Yeah, that's where I'm at. What about you?
Well, we met almost 5 years ago, like she said, and we met on plentyoffish.com. And so, you know, the first dates were going really well, and we were really starting to get into each other, and everything clicked, I guess, like when it comes to our sense of humor and what we're into and our likes and dislikes and our open-mindedness towards growth as like self-growth. And but then, like she said, there was something that was off. Like, I'm sure I was excited sexually for us in the very beginning, but as time went on, I started like not feeling sexual towards my partner. And yeah, the first therapy session we went to was pretty traumatic because, well, it was like almost free because it was someone that was practicing to be a therapist. And she was like, well, what's going on? And I was like, I'll just say it. I'm having a hard time being physically attracted to my partner and wanting to have sex with her. And there was just a complete silence. And it was like, you know, crickets in the background. And then we, you know, it was traumatic. It was messed up. Huh. And, but we decided to stay together, and we've, you know, just been going ups and downs with our relationship when it comes to my porn use and me wanting more sexually and emotionally with us. And I'm just stuck in a pickle here and there. I was, you know, one of my therapists told me, Shaun, you got to be honest with yourself. What do you want? Are you going to be honest with Emily and try this relationship out, or are you just going to hide from the truth and keep on looking at porn? And so whenever he told me to do that, I was sober for over a month. I just recently had a slip, and I'm taking responsibility for it. And I'm going to try again, and I'm going to try to stay sober again. But I'm just in this pickle, you know, of like, are we compatible sexually? Or is it the porn use that's keeping me from being fully present with my partner? Or is it both? You know, so it can be a nightmare sometimes. So I guess I explained it as best I could right there for now.
It sounds like a pretty complex problem you guys are running into that is actually a very common thing. So but if there's anything I want you guys to leave with today is to know that you guys aren't alone in this, that what you're experiencing is actually really, really common. And hopefully today we'll be able to break some things down and try to separate out that little bit of a mix of how much of this is your porn use that's affecting this, how much of this is the difference between the two of you personality wise or sexual template wise, and how do you start to sift those things out to figure out which is which. And that's kind of what I'm hearing, at least on your side of things, Shaun. That's kind of what you're saying.
Yes.
This can be really tricky, even for like your side, Emily, where, you know, it can be hard not to take things personally and to feel rejected and you know, those type of things. And so to stay in this relationship and to navigate this together can be pretty brutal. But I really do think there are some things that you guys can do to sort this out, to try to figure out whether or not really, ultimately, I think the relationship is something that you both want and desire. I do want to ask you guys, why are you still in it? Why have you chosen to stay together?
Well, I think deep down, you know, under the shallow, I want to chase other women stuff, Deep down, Emily and I are, like I said, ever since we met each other and been together, we've just had so much fun. We're like best friends. We love each other. We don't want to hurt each other. And I see potential, I guess, in our relationship and in Emily. And it's not just like this. It's not just like what we're going through is an end all, like there is some potential for growth, I feel like. And plus on top of that, it's extremely scary to break up with somebody that you love just because of some sex reason, you wish it wasn't just that.
Right. Emily, what about you?
For me, at first it felt like it seemed like the only thing about him when I was hit with all this stuff like betrayal trauma and everything, it felt like so overwhelming. But as I've grown and done my own therapy and my own work, I realized like his issues with compulsive sexuality or behavior is just like one small part of him. And you are right. Like there is so much to our relationship that isn't about sex, that feels like, there's so much laughter and connection, and also real emotional stuff. Like we both kind of come from dysfunctional families. And so we've, through this process, learned how to connect and be real with each other. And so it feels like a very authentic connection that I don't necessarily have in the rest of my life. And so letting go of that would really suck. And because he's really got a good heart, even at times he doesn't believe it.
Gotcha.
Shaun, can I ask you, and I don't know if you'll be able to put words to this or not, but when you think about, you were talking about kind of your own pattern with using pornography, you don't need to go into a ton of detail, but how has your pornography use over the years affected the way you view yourself?
So I think that you're right. That's kind of a hard question to answer because I'm sure it's changed throughout the years. And, I guess in the long run, at least, I feel like it's a shallow thing and it's a compulsive thing and it makes me feel weak and more lonely usually because it's not like it's a real person. It's me trying to have a real person in a sense.
Okay. This is pretty common that, when we look at like the term shame so often, especially for men, revolves around weakness or not being enough, not measuring up. And over the years, probably for maybe as long as you've had a relationship with pornography, it sounds like you've at least started to recognize that there's a feedback loop that you experience where you pursue something hoping to get whatever it is, to feel either a release or to feel some type of like relaxation, or to actually maybe feel the void of not feeling bad or weak. But then what it ends up producing for you is more of the same thing that you're trying to avoid, which then leads to you feeling this sense of like, almost like at a base level, there's this constant like buzzing of shame that's always there, that you're always kind of like knee deep in. And it makes it really difficult to then be able to show up the way that you want to in other parts of your life, whether that's at work or particularly in this case, since we're talking to you together inside the relationship, it's hard to even see clearly what is your actual like template and what is like, there's such a lack of confidence in knowing who self is. It's hard to show up and offer that to the relationship too. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it's not just the porn use for me. It's hard for me to even go out in the public without like craving. Definitely now, since it's spring and summer, there's always a possibility that there's something that I want to be attracted to turn the corner. So my mind's like primed, like to try to find that fix almost every part of the day. And it's hard for me to be present in a lot of my life just because of that. Not just relationships, but a lot of things, And I would like to say this right now, I guess, since it's a good time, I guess. the attraction part towards my partner also, because maybe since I'm always scrolling or always looking for the next more attractive person, I'm like, I'm consistently comparing my partner and at the same time feeling bad looking at my partner just because I'm always having this comparing mindset. So it's even hard for me to look at my partner sometimes too. And that could be because of the porn use.
You're getting to something here, Shaun, and I know Brannon, you're just going to say something, so I'll be quick here. But
fine.
But what you just described is a set of rules that gets established inside of the game you've been playing for so long that if you were to leave your current wife and have a new wife, the rules of the game wouldn't necessarily change, and you'd be looking for someone else who is more attractive than the next woman.
Sure.
And it would never, what you're in right now is a game of never ending. Like, it doesn't matter who you're with. You're never going to fill the void because the rules are what's wrong with the game, right? It's that comparison that you're constantly in, like, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? That's almost part of the addiction itself, is the anticipation of what's next, instead of being able to bring yourself back into here and now and look around and go, man, like everything you guys are describing so far. I mean, I'm just taking some notes. It sounds like you guys are actually pretty highly compatible with one another. You guys have a lot of good bones to build the structure around. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. There've been, it's interesting to kind of sort out what's just normal sexuality and what is unhealthy behaviors and tolerance built up in an addiction and blah, blah, blah. Right. So like, if you go to the park and it's springtime and a bunch of girls are wearing short shorts and you're objectifying them and using them to lust and whatever, at what point is that lustful and unhealthy? And at what point is that just like your sexuality? You being a man, you're at the park and there's girls in shorts, right? There's been studies. This is interesting. There's been studies shown that if somebody has sex with their partner for a while, and then they go have sex with somebody else, somebody new, the dopamine that's released is way more because they had sex with a new partner. And I think we all can understand why somehow, some way. So does that mean that we should go have sex with a new partner? I don't think so. We might be
my answer to that is no, Brannon.
Thank you. Oh, really, Tyler? Shocking.
Yeah, there you go.
But this is a fascinating thing to look at, right? So in some ways, we're designed to seek out sexual partners. In some ways, we're designed that way. And in other ways, we choose monogamy and we choose fidelity. And so there's this kind of choice and there's this balance to step into, which says, I realize that I'm that way, and it's okay that I'm that way, and I choose you. I choose this sacrifice to be in a relationship with you because I love you, and I want you, and I want all of you. I want you emotionally, spiritually, and sexually. And because we have that bond and that safety and that fidelity, we can get down to those deeper parts of real love because we have that safety here. And if I'm having sex with whoever I can, then we'll never actually create that together, right? Do you see what I'm saying, Shaun?
Yeah. What I'm picking up is, I don't know, from what I'm experiencing at least, is that since my relationship to porn has been so long, it's hard for me to really dig deep into a relationship emotionally and give her my all because of that.
Yep.
Because I'm consistently, it's like I'm looking for love in a way that is not as fulfilling, I guess, Yep. But my mind is just that's all it knows how to do, I guess, because I don't know, I've always been kind of a really passionate person. I've been a musician since I was a kid, and I've always been this charismatic comedian, And it's almost like I'm just already set up to like seek that passion. And we were talking about that also recently, like how someone had told us that it's not just the sex. Like she's looking for this passion, and it's hard for her to have this passion in a long-term relationship. And so it's like I'm seeking not just this physical beauty idol or whatever, but I'm also seeking this enthralling, moving, ecstatic feeling. But like you're saying, that it's hard for me to really know on a deeper level what it means to be in a very tight bond with somebody that you love.
Well, and it's a matter of what you want to seek. Like you can go get a thrill. You could just rage out in your addiction but if you play the middle ground, that's where a lot of damage is done, both to you, because you'll feel shame about what you're doing and leading Emily along, and both to her, right? Where it's like, I want sobriety, but I don't want full recovery, and I don't want to fully commit and go here with you. I want to choose you, but I don't want to choose you. And do you see how that can just be hard for both of you?
Mm-hmm.
Call it ambivalence.
I also wonder if what you're saying, Shaun, is teasing some things out here that I think are important. So first I want to back up and say what Brannon was saying about the way to approach it. The reason that's important is because it pulls the shame of it out for you to say, yeah, I'm going to go to the park and notice some beautiful women. But then it allows you to then also become a choosing, deciding being about the decisions you want to make about how you're going to continue to treat your brain and your relationship and so on and so forth. Right. So now you can do that without the shame of it all, because you're not like, oh, I had those feelings. That makes me terrible and weak and inadequate again. It's like, no, I notice that I'm having those thoughts and feelings, and I'm choosing to temper those things because I believe in what me and my wife are currently building. And I want to choose in on my relationship with her. And I'm going to continue to do that work. And this is going to sound really weird, but the choice to do that work is actually a gesture towards the relationship too, even though it's not pleasant all the time. Right. But as you were talking, Shaun, there's a few things coming out in here is that the porn and the sex part of it that you've kind of got your brain in, and that you called it like almost like what was the word you used? Craving. You're primed for that craving all the time. You also tied that to being a passionate and adventurous person, right? And as you start to recognize those links, some people have a hard time seeing this, but you can separate the craving and the pursuit and the priming towards sex from the principles of passionate and creative and adventurous. And if you're going to stay in a relationship with your wife, that's still going to need to include on some levels passion and adventure and creativity. Like you guys are going to have to make sure that's part of the ongoing forward motion for your life, with or without your wife, as you move forward in your own recovery. As you give up pornography, you still need to hold on to those principles because those are important to you as a person. And I imagine that that's one of the reasons why Emily wanted to be with you in the first place. Right? So Emily, I'm kind of wondering what you're feeling and thinking as we're talking with Shaun here for a second. What's going through you?
Wait, I gotta ask, you guys, are you married?
No.
Oh, so we're just talking marriage. Sorry.
Yeah.
Partner. Sorry about that.
But you are together. You've been together a long time in a committed relationship.
So. Almost 5 years. 5 years next month.
5 years. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay.
We're practically married. This was out the terminology.
Okay.
It's true. It feels very validating to hear some of these things. I mean, I've heard them on the podcast before because I definitely, I'm Wake Up Religious. I got the little notification on Spotify that a new episode has come out. But feels good to hear. And also back to like this passion thing he's talking about. It can be, yes, the ambivalence fence. I've heard you use that term before.
Yes.
That is the most frustrating part because early on in this process, I think I tried to get him to like this ideal version of me and kind of be what he wanted. And as I moved through my own recovery, I kind of have put my foot down and learned more about who I really am and am no longer trying to convince him to stay with me like I used to, but more just like, this is me, this is who I am. And I know I'm worth, being with. I have a lot to bring to the table, not just physically or spiritually, sexually, whatever, but like the whole picture. And so it's really frustrating because I feel like I've pushed for wanting to try new things in the bedroom too. And it's just like it just like immediately gets shut down by Shaun. And your first reaction or words out of his mouth are usually like, I'm scared. And so like, I'm aware of this intimacy and anorexia thing that could be going on too. But overall, it's very validating to hear. But I also know there's a lot of work on both ends, not in a bad way, but just.
Do you realize like this is not about the bedroom?
Yes. Part of me does it still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's happening in the bedroom is the symptom of the actual issue.
Okay.
The actual issue is very different than what's happening in the bedroom. This is about like where I would start is I'd assess what's going on with an addiction here. Is there an addiction? Is there not? And then I'd look at real recovery. So we've talked about some things already today. And Shaun, you're saying you're a passionate person. I heard there was dysfunction in your families. There's obviously some wounds. There's some trauma there. And, that sobriety in this case is actually very important. But the ultimate long-term goal needs to be recovery. Mm-hmm. And so to start with some sobriety, we got to start there just to kind of clear things out a little bit, but then real recovery needs to happen. And in that real recovery space is where hopefully both of you can say, you know what, I either want in here or I'm going to be honest with you and I want out. And I'm going to, in my recovery and my strength, I'm going to face the pain of the breakup, or in my recovery and my strength, I'm going to face the hard work of the relationship. But I'm not seeing recovery here.
Would you, Brannon, I know a lot of our listeners are going to want to have some clarification on what you're saying about sobriety is really important to get things cleared out, but I don't see real recovery happening here. Maybe this is where you're already going, but would you explain what you mean by real recovery versus sobriety in this situation?
Yeah. So sobriety and recovery are very different. Sobriety, long-term sobriety happens as a byproduct of real recovery. But like, let me give you an analogy. Tyler and I just spent a weekend just being gluttonous and eating junk food all weekend, right? And
pure relapse.
Yeah, there's Oreos and Reese's peanut butter cups and peanut M&Ms and you name it, all over the counter. Liquor. I mean, it looks like we're junkies, right? And let's say there's an apple sitting on the counter there, and I walk in that kitchen, and I'm already gorged just with the sugar, right? How appealing is that apple? Yeah.
No, leave that to rot. Give me some more licorice.
Leave that thing that's so good for me there. I'm not even going to notice that. I'm already feeling sick, and yet I want another handful of M&Ms. Okay. So this is an example of addiction, right? It's already too much. It's not realistic. It's not good for me, but I'm going to do the very thing that hurts me. And oh, by the way, leave that healthy thing on the counter. Okay. So this is where sobriety comes in. First thing I need to do is get all that stuff. I need to throw it in the garbage, and I need to get it out of my house. I can leave the apple there, but I need to get all that other crap out of the house. And just for a while, I then need to go through some withdrawals, and I'll go through some withdrawals. I'll get headaches. My body will just respond in a way. Cravings will hit me so hard.
Get irritable.
I'm irritable. I can't sleep well. Withdrawals will start to happen. And by the way, you guys, sugar withdrawals are a real thing, just so you know. The withdrawals hit, and what those withdrawals are saying is that addiction thing was pretty awesome. Like, you know what? That apple sucks. You know what's awesome is the Oreos. Like, get the freaking Oreos. And what I need to do you know what I need to do with those withdrawals, you guys?
Ride the wave.
You got it, Emily.
That's it.
I sit and I face the pain of it, and I ride it. I step into the pain. I know it's going to be difficult. I know the cravings are coming, and I know it's not going to last forever that strong. And so this is, Tyler, this is when you ask your question. Sobriety is important. We got to get over that hump to know, like, what is reality here? Shaun, what is your sexuality? Who are you as a man? When you're clear from the porn. So you just went a month of sobriety. That's awesome. That's good. That's a success. And in that state, your mind starts to clear up a little bit. Now let's have you go 2 months of sobriety and get a little more clear. And in that, when you get that shame that the use is causing out of the way, then you can start to dig down a little bit. You can start to dig into some of those wounds, some of that trauma. You can start to get to know yourself without numbing yourself out or seeking validation through unrealistic ways with pornography. And that's where the real work begins. And ultimately, Tyler, what's recovery ultimately?
Well, I think to me, recovery is the continual process of uncovering the truth of who I am and then living from a place of congruency.
And I might find out who I am, like who my body is. My body might love that apple. Like, holy cow, this tastes so good. And this is so good for me. And it's so much better than those freaking Oreos, but I never could even see it in my state of mind here when I'm using, right?
Yeah.
So
and then Brannon, to go a step further with that, the real recovery part of it that comes as you start to work through this, like the sobriety piece of it, is the looking inward on yourself, looking at core beliefs, looking at the way you operate inside relationships, looking at how you've learned the things that you believe about yourself and whether or not they need to stay true or not, taking care of yourself in a different way, like actually choosing to go in there, and because it's the option now, eat the apple and take your vitamins and exercise your body and start taking care of yourself in a different way than maybe you ever have. And when you start doing that, you start to see things about yourself that maybe were covered up or kind of layered over by this callus of the addiction to begin with. And then that starts to clear the air even further. And eventually you're like seeing this from a whole different lens going, wow, I never thought it was possible that I could see my life and my relationship and my wife or my partner in like such a different light than I currently do. But I had to get through the clouds in order to get there.
yeah.
And that's what the real recovery process is the care for self, the setting of new boundaries, the digging deep into your own shame and trauma and coming to know yourself more fully. That's what you're saying.
Yep. And then there's a confidence, there's a clarity, and there's a freedom from the compulsions. So Shaun, as we're talking about all of this stuff, what are you thinking?
Well, I've been sober from alcohol and drugs for 9 years, so I know.
Nice job,
dude. Sweet.
I know addiction's real. I have it in my family, and it is kind of harder to, describe addiction with sex, because what is normal and what is not.
Right.
And I've been to SAA and SLAA, but I haven't got a sponsor there, and I haven't really worked the steps or anything like that with the sponsor in that program, which would probably be beneficial. I don't know. I just got to maybe take the step and find somebody that I think is working a thorough recovery and try and work it with it.
I like that. Shaun, how did you get yourself sober from those other things in the first place? How did you get into recovery there?
Well, just like how I got sober a month and a half ago, before my recent slip. I was tired of just lying to myself. I was tired of, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I was so full of shame and regret, and I just showed up to a meeting and I was ready whenever I was 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But like with me and Emily, like this last month, I was just so tired of living this lie between us of like, everything's okay, you know, and like I told you guys, my therapist was like, Shaun, you gotta be honest. You're ruining your life by not being honest and just going through the motions. And so I'm still trying to stay committed to that, but it is hard, like you guys said, because, you know, what is true for me, and what is, even if it, you know, it's a process. So,
Shaun, you're right there. I mean, it's interesting when we first met you guys, and maybe we were off the air, but Emily's like, yeah, I listen to everything and I do everything and I know betrayal trauma, you know, and Shaun, you're kind of like, yeah, like, but like you have worked a recovery for you before in the past, not for Emily. And sex addiction and this whole issue, maybe the relationship is the thing that's kind of pushing you to really look at this. But it's got to push you over the edge where it's like, okay, now I'm doing this for me. Like this addiction and these issues are going to make me face some of my deepest wounds here. And by dang, like I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually deal with it. I'm not going to repeat the patterns of my parents. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to get as healthy as I possibly can get. And hopefully like things work out with Emily. That'd be awesome. But whether they do or not, it's time. It's time for me for full recovery here. Right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right there.
I hear it. Yeah, I've got a couple of thoughts. One is just kind of in the context of the relationship, navigating your sex life together. I think Brannon's onto something for the two of you, that you're going to have a really difficult time finding that stuff without some space away from the Oreos and the peanut M&Ms. And Emily, you might be leaning yourself in your own work towards this relationship, offering those things. You just make sure that you're doing that from a place of your own groundedness and not from a place of trying to solve the problem itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it probably is, and every occasion, kind of a check-in with yourself of what are my reasons for why I'm choosing to do X, Y, or Z here. And if it's from that place of compulsion or needing to be the answer or needing to like make sure that you're taking care of him or preventing a relapse or whatever else, then that's maybe a way to temper it for a minute, because at the end of the day, it won't produce for you what you're looking for it to produce either. Right.
Yes, I feel like I went through that phase and I'm not there anymore, which is really nice. But I did go through that for a period of time where, you know, I tried to dress provocatively and do all the things thinking I could stop, you know, a relapse or a slip or whatever, but not anymore.
Like if you really look at it, it's crazy. Like if you take a step back, like, hey, if Emily does this magic thing in the bedroom, all of a sudden all the problems go away.
Yeah.
Like, well, hey, you did it. You found the thing. Not realistic, right?
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, it actually reinforces the same rules of the game that you're trying to break. You're jumping in and saying, he's like, I play by the rules that if you're hot enough, then maybe you'll be enough. And you're like, okay, I'll try that for a while. And then you're going to get exasperated, worn out, tired. And then it's still never going to be enough, because it's not about you or the next woman or the next woman. It's that there is a next woman. That's the issue. Right. And he's going to have to learn how to like decide if he wants to chase that the rest of his life or not. Right. And so you don't want to play by those rules of the game. And it sounds like you're catching yourself on that.
Yes. And I'm also learning I don't want to play by the rules of pretending everything's fine, you know, when it's not. Because I think we both kind of co-create, I love you guys or Brannon really talks about like Jennifer Finley in 5, and I've been listening to her a lot recently. She talked about you two kind of or not explicitly, but implicitly co-create this reality, and then everything blows up. And I feel like that's where we've been. And so before he was 30, whatever, I don't even keep track, which is great for me because I've stepped back. But, before that, I like found a picture on his phone. And after that, I said, like, I'm done. I'm not doing this, tracking you or whatever anymore. And I'm done pretending. And so this past slip, he did really good with telling me about it, because I've gone through all of it. You guys talk a lot about intention. What is your intention behind the behavior? And so early on, I used to have him tell me when he slipped or relapsed or whatever, because my intention was trying to control or to stop or whatever. And then I kind of swung the other way and was like, you know what? I don't want you to tell me anything ever, because it's not my business and I don't want to know anything, because it's easier to live in denial. And now I feel like I'm kind of in this middle ground where I want you to tell me if you slip or when you slip, because if you don't, it means you're not being honest with me. And I need the honesty and transparency more than I need you to be perfect and not slip.
Yeah,
because
good.
for me, that's more important, that we can be real about when we're having a hard time, when we're not having, what's going on, so I can make informed choices. So yeah,
Love it.
he did really well with that.
Yeah, it's been interesting also about like our sex life just in a month, because for 30 days we haven't had sex at all. And then before she left for a trip, I felt sexual. I don't know, maybe not so much towards Emily. I was just feeling sexual. I was like, I want to have sex. So then we had sex, and then it was nice because she was leaving, you know.
Mhm.
And then she came back, and then we had sex again, and then we had sex yesterday, you know. And I don't, I still feel like there's this addict part of me that wants more still, but and it can be just a tricky situation altogether, because not only am I in trying to like be honest with myself, we live together, you know, so it's like, I don't know, it can be hard to just see the truth, I guess, because should we even be having sex, you know?
Yeah. Shaun, I want to ask you this, and this could take us on like 3 other episodes here. So, but what's the difference between consuming a woman and loving a woman?
You know, it's a good question. It's hard for me to know that, because I still get confused between love and consuming. You know?
Yeah.
But consuming is more of a selfish thing, I would agree with. And it's more about me trying to fulfill myself, and loving a person is more about giving of myself to that partner.
Yeah. That's a good answer. It's
Great answer.
loving Emily is seeing her, like knowing her, giving space for her, serving her. And it's also there's this kind of paradoxical place of it's connecting to her and experiencing pleasure by connecting to her. That's also loving her. Consuming her. I got a challenge for you that might terrify you, and it might bring up all the intimacy anorexia stuff if it's there, but don't have sex with Emily and anymore. Make love to her. And do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Because Emily expresses, I think, what she wants. And I think what she wants is love. And she doesn't like to just, get it. She likes
Yeah.
to be slow and intentional and conscious and all that. So.
And it's a lot easier to get off when you're looking at a picture on a phone,
Sure.
because there's not that like real work that it takes to hold space and really see somebody and be vulnerable on those levels. And this is why I'm challenging you, is because for you to stop and be like, look, I just want to have sex, and Emily's body will provide that for me. And Emily, you might be like, oh, good, at least he wants to have sex, right? We don't want that. We want like trust, safety, connection. You see me, I see you. Let's like do this because we're connecting. And it takes some real recovery. So I might be jumping the gun here and Tyler's shaking his head like, yeah, Brannon, this is too far, too fast. But it takes some real recovery to be able to hold those spaces and go that far. So I'm not telling you not to have sex together. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is when you do, be intentional and be mindful about what you're actually doing and how you're actually connecting, because that's taking a bite of the apple, Shaun, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's doing something good for you. It's doing something good for Emily. It's stepping up in your masculinity by really holding that type of space for her. And I know I know maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I know you can get there to be the man to really do that for yourself and in your relationship.
I just go along with that, Brannon. I was nodding my head saying, yeah, it's probably a little too fast, too soon, but it's a podcast episode. So we're speaking principles while the work needs to still be happening. Right. But you're right on. And I think coming back to that analogy you used earlier, Brannon, is exactly right. What you're saying to them is, let's put the apple on the kitchen counter still. And that apple is the connected, loving, offering kind of sex with one another. And let's work towards that. And when we're in the spot to do that, let's try to shoot for that. In the meantime, we do need to clean out the kitchen. We need to get rid of the Oreos. We need to get rid of all the other candy. And that's the hard part. That I think, Shaun, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to die. Like, I don't know if I can actually do that right now. I know that you can, but if you do both of those things, what it does is it offers the opportunity for a complete recalibration over time. And that's why I think sometimes some couples therapists will actually say, hey, why don't you guys take a break completely from sex for 30, 50, 60, 90 days or something? What they're trying to do is hit the reset button the way Brandon's talking about. And what Brandon's saying is, well, maybe you guys leave the apple in the room, but then the rest of it, let's clear out for the time being.
Yeah.
And, and I want to just share this with you too. Like, going into this, I think where Brandon's going is right, that maybe we're jumping the gun by talking about finding your healthy sex life. We're talking about the first piece of this to get to a healthy sex life right now. And I think there's just a quote here that I wanted to read to you by C.S. Lewis that I think is where you guys kind of find yourselves. And it's not necessarily a bad place to be. Now, Brandon's laughing at me.
No, I'm laughing at Emily because she's laughing like, oh, here's Tyler's quote or poem.
I am.
You got one today, Emily.
She got one out of you.
You got one out of me. And this is kind of where I think what it's like when you're talking about that riding the wave part of it, Emily, earlier today. Like, this is where you guys are at. You need to create some change in your personal lives and your relationship for this. And it's by C.S. Lewis, and it says, no man knows how bad he is until he has tried very hard to be good. A silly idea is current that good people do not know what temptation means. This is an obvious lie. Only those who try to resist temptation know how strong it is. After all, you find out the strength of the German army by fighting against it, not by giving in. You find out the strength of the wind by trying to walk against it, not by lying down. A man who gives into temptation after 5 minutes simply does not know what it would have been like an hour later. That's why bad people, in one sense, know very little about badness. They've lived a sheltered life, always giving in. We never find out the strength of the evil impulse inside us until we try to fight it. And Christ, because he was the only man who never yielded to temptation, is the only man who knows to the full what temptation means, the only complete realist. And the reason I share that is because I think that's where you're at. You guys are in a chance to actually step into this place where you can grow. You said at the beginning of the episode that you desire growth, and this is the platform that is going to offer you both an immense amount of growth if you're willing to step into and against the wind that's there, against the patterns that you have established, towards looking at creating something new. And it will be difficult, and you will have to ride the wave, but it can produce something so beautiful on the other side. It really can.
And I do want to add, I love what Tyler just said. That was awesome. I want to add this. When you talk about it, like what we're talking about moving forward, I'm not going to go through all the processes and steps and everything that recovery entails. You can find that. But if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. And so white knuckling your way to sobriety isn't going to what brings recovery. And ultimately what we look at is connection to God, self, and others. What are you doing in a humble way to connect yourself to God, self, and others? And make sure you guys get your relationship out of the way so that you can focus on your individual recoveries, actually do that work, and then come back together and make some pretty awesome love. And that can absolutely work for you guys. So Shaun, thank you for your vulnerability. Emily, thanks for coming on. Thanks for your vulnerability. Really appreciate you guys today. How are you guys feeling right now?
Good. I'm glad you guys brought up C.S. Lewis because I just picked up a book by him.
Oh, really?
I was, ironically and paradoxically, I guess, I was looking up books on humility, and one of those books came up.
C.S. Lewis, I love it.
That's awesome, man.
That's a real humble thing to do, to look up books on humility. So nice.
Right.
There you go. Attaboy.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, again, thank you for coming on, you guys. If this was helpful, guys, please feel free to share it. And if you want to come on our show, we love having couples like this. Relationships bring out all the issues, and there's a lot of questions, and it can be really vulnerable to come on as a couple. So if you want to come on as a couple, please go over to realtalkrecovery.com and you can sign up to come on. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks, guys.